Hello everyone. We will be studying biogeochemical cycles in detail with the help of this presentation.
A biogeochemical cycle is a pathway by which a chemical substance such as a nutrient moves through the biotic and abiotic components of the earth. Biotic components are the living components such as biosphere that constitutes living organisms, and the abiotic components are the non-living components such as lithosphere, that is land, atmosphere, that is air, and hydrosphere, that is water. Biogeochemical cycles maintain sustainable living of the Earth's ecosystem, maintains the ecosystem balance, helps in material recycling, prevent waste buildup, and supports biodiversity. Examples of biogeochemical cycles are nitrogen cycle, carbon cycle, phosphorus cycle, and hydrogen cycle. Here I am explaining a generalized nutrient cycle where the sun is providing the source of energy and the nutrient pool is there in the atmosphere, lithosphere, and hydrosphere, that is in the non-living components. Nutrients from these non-living components of the earth are taken up by the producers, and they use this energy of the sun to incorporate these nutrients into their own bodies. And when these producers are eaten up by herbivores, typically these producers are plants or they are some other autotrophs that make their own food, then these nutrients that were there in the bodies of producers have now moved into the bodies of herbivores. When the herbivores in turn get eaten up by the carnivores, then these nutrients move into the bodies of the carnivores. The producers, the herbivores and the carnivores, when they die off or when they produce excreta or dung, then all of this is eaten up by decomposers. The nutrients that are within the bodies of producers, the herbivores or the carnivores, have now reached into the bodies of decomposers, and then these decomposers break down these nutrients and release them in a form that goes back into the nutrient pool. The nutrients moves through the biosphere and then comes back into the nutrient pool. The first cycle that we will be going through is nitrogen cycle. There are two major pools that hold up nitrogen. The first is the atmospheric nitrogen. Now we all know that as much as 78% of the air is comprised of nitrogen gas. N2. So most of the nitrogen remains in the form of the nitrogen gas that is present in the atmosphere. The other nutrient pool is of soil nitrates. So in this case, nitrogen is present in the form of salt, in the form of NO3-, and this NO3- is present in the form of some salts together with some cations. Example, sodium carbonate, NaCO3, sodium nitrate, NaNO3, or it can be calcium nitrate, CaNO3 twice, or so on. Atmospheric nitrogen is continuously interacting with the soil nitrates. Biological fixation, lightning, or industrial fixation, these three processes convert the atmospheric nitrogen into soil nitrates. Nitrogen is moving from one pool to another pool whenever there is nitrogen fixation by lightning or by the industrial nitrogen fixation, or as biological fixation, as atmospheric nitrogen is getting converted into soil nitrates. Soil nitrates can also move back into the atmospheric pool in the form of nitrogen, and this happens when you have the process of denitrification, or for instance the process of volcanic activity. Now in the case of volcanic activity, the nitrates that are present in the rocks will be heated up to a very large extent, and then they will be released back into the atmosphere. The plants also take up these soil nitrates. Plants take up these soil nitrates and then they use it to form their biomass. Nitrates will in turn be used to make amino acids, which will make up of proteins of the plants. And when these plants get eaten up, then this nitrogen will get into the bodies of the animals that are eating these plants. And here again, the animals that are eating these plants are the herbivores. These animals in turn get eaten up by the carnivores, and the process goes on. Here we can also see the diagrammatic representation of the nitrogen cycle. The first step in the nitrogen cycle is nitrogen fixation, that is the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia. It can be converted into ammonia, or in certain cases it can directly be converted into nitrates. Nitrogen fixation happens through biological fixation, lightning, and industrial fixation. The first one, biological nitrogen fixation, activity of certain enzymes such as nitrogenase converts nitrogen gas into ammonia. These sort of enzymes are not found in every organism. They are found in certain nitrogen-fixing organisms, and examples of such organism is rhizobium. Now, rhizobium is a symbiotic bacteria. Symbiosis is a relationship between two organisms in which these both organisms are helping each other and primarily through provisioning of food and shelter. Rhizobium is present in the root nodules of the leguminous plants. This bacteria has nitrogenase enzyme, so it is fixing up the atmospheric nitrogen. So the plant by itself was not able to use the atmospheric nitrogen. But now because this nitrogen is being fixed up by rhizobium bacteria, so it is now being made available to the plants. These bacteria are now helping the plants to get their food, that is, to get their nutrition. Plant is providing shelter and adequate conditions for the growth and propagation of these bacteria. They are also providing some other food materials to the bacteria. So the bacteria is providing nutrition to the plant and the plant is in turn providing nutrition to the bacteria. Example of leguminous plants are pulses, grams, etc. Typically, these leguminous plants are producing those food materials that are very high in proteins. Grams and pulses are a rich source of proteins. Now, protein in turn are made up of amino acids, and these amino acids have nitrogen in them. So, through this process of nitrogen fixation, we are able to get protein-rich foods. Nitrogen is also fixed by Azotobacter, which is a free-living bacteria. We also have cyanobacteria or the blue-green algae, such as nostoc and anabina. Both of these are also be able to perform nitrogen fixation. Ammonification. It is the process of production of ammonia through decomposition of organic nitrogen in dead plants and animals. Now this is the opposite of nitrogen fixation. In case of nitrogen fixation, we are producing ammonia, but for fixation in the biological tissues. In case of ammonification, we are breaking biological materials to generate ammonia. Through the process of ammonification, the proteins that are there in the bodies of dead plants and animals are also certain nucleic acids are converted into ammonia. Examples of organisms that participate in ammonification are Bacillus, Proteus, Clostridium, Pseudomonas, and Streptomyces, and some fungi. Enzymes involved in the process are proteinases, peptidases, deaminases, urease. Nitrification is a biological oxidation of ammonia into nitrites and nitrates. Plants are taking up nitrates from the soil. Now we need to convert ammonia into these nitrates because typically ammonia is a very toxic compound. You cannot have excess amount of ammonia or the plant will die. So now this ammonia has to be converted into nitrites and nitrates, and the process through which this is done is an oxidation reaction, which is known as nitrification. In case of nitrification, you have ammonia plus oxygen in the presence of bacteria such as Nitrosomonas or Nitrococcus. It is converted into nitrites. So Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus are converting ammonia into nitrites, and these nitrites are then further oxidized by Nitrobacter into nitrates. These bacteria are called chemoautotrophs. Enzymes that are involved in nitrification are ammonia monooxygenase that converts ammonia into hydroxylamine, that is NH3 to H2OH, hydroxylamine oxidoreductase that converts NH2OH to NO2-, nitrite oxidoreductase NO2- to NO3-. Industrial nitrogen fixation. The very common way of doing the industrial nitrogen fixation is through Haber process. Now in the Haber process, nitrogen and hydrogen are combined together at high temperature and pressure in the presence of catalysts, and these nitrogen and hydrogen react together to form ammonia. So this is a process that is not happening naturally because the high temperature and pressure are required as well as the catalyst is required. So this process is known as industrial nitrogen fixation. In the next presentation, we will be discussing the carbon cycle. Thank you. Please like, subscribe and share.